Sierra Club, I see, okay.
Yeah.
Should I take one?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Laura just got
whichever,
size.
yeah, whichever one, yeah, there's two different sizes there, I wasn't sure, so that you pick what you wanted.
I like that color green too.
Yeah, this is our,
Yeah.
these are our green, that has our logo, yeah, and has our super stage, yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, yes, I just wanna make sure you got one of those. Don't forget to sign in. Great, it already did.
Oh, I brought some donuts.
Yes, thank you. Oh, okay.
We went on a hike down there 2 weeks ago with Marigold.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Sharon, how are you tonight?
Fine, how are you?
Well, thanks for having the idea.
Okay.
Setting this up to do the trash interceptor.
That should be very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so Todd has everything set up, so whenever you want to start. If so.
welcome everybody and then I'll bring you to start?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Rather than changing places.
Does he need a microphone up there?
It's up there.
It's up there?
It's up there, yeah, it's got, yeah, everything's up there, so.
Okay.
So just whenever you wanna start. Let me see if,
May have
Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
it's out there, and I'll help you, so whenever you want.
Can't get that far up. I mean, not legally anyway, can you?
You set? Welcome everybody to Sierra Sage of South Orange County's bi-monthly general meeting. This evening we have the pleasure of welcoming Bob Stein, who is the Assistant City Engineer in the Public Works Department for the City of Newport Beach. And Bob has a lot of design and construction experience, including stabilization and restoration of coastal canyons. And he's also had the opportunity of creating novel water quality improvement projects in Newport Bay and in Newport Beach waterways. Bob's a registered civil engineer in California, and he's got a PhD in civil engineering from the University of California at Irvine. And he lives in Laguna Beach. And he's going to tell us tonight about Newport Beach's rather innovative Trash Interceptor that is going to hopefully do a whole bunch to help protect the upper Newport Bay, our marine protected areas, and the Newport Nature Preserve from trash coming down San Diego Creek, particularly during a variety of weather events. And since we've had so many more weather events of late, this is going to be a very important innovation, we hope. So, welcome, Bob.
Thank you very much. First slide perhaps. And let me just start by saying that this idea was broached back in 2016 by a couple guys that worked for me. And the city council said, hey, we're 100% behind you, Bob, but we're not going to give you a nickel. Go find your own money. So with that, I actually reached out to Suvan Gear with Sierra Club, and she invited me to a gathering even smaller than this, and I had my little projector and a screen, and we did the PowerPoint, because I knew it was essential to get community support. that the city council needed to see that, and the grant funding agencies needed to see that. So I got a reference letter from Sierra Club and from the Coast Keepers and other folks, and we were successful in getting our first grant back in 2017 from the Ocean Protection Council, and it was a statewide competitive grant. And when we got the grant, there were many cities in the Bay Area and LA County that were just angry because we grabbed all the money. So, and we get periodic calls like, how's that project coming, and how can we, leverage this project? So I think that we will start seeing a lot more interest in this kind of 1890s looking contraption here. So let's start with the next slide, and maybe shrink my screen a little bit here. So this first exhibit was prior to GIS, but I'm told this is a perfectly accurate map of Newport Bay, 1939. And you'll notice that we have subdivisions around the coastline there, and the hills were some farming and grazing, I assume. But look at Upper Bay. Upper Bay was a dead end. And even though there was perhaps a channel coming from the Santa Ana Delhi, the San Diego Creek, which is the biggest freshwater tributary creek to Newport Bay, didn't exist. And so the water that flowed into the harbor actually came down the Santa Ana River, through Seminole Slough, down a street called River Street, into the Newport Island channels, into the harbor, and then out the jetty. So that was the water pattern that's been there for tens of thousands of years. San Diego Creek existed, but it ended in a swamp called Swamp of the Frogs. It was in the city of Irvine, and because of that swamp, the only thing you had out in Irvine was farming. So in Upper Bay, they did build a salt works in the upper area there, and the next slide shows that salt works there. They actually cordoned off a portion of the bay near the Muth Center, and you can see how quiescent the water was. And so we hear stories of people going out there in 50s, 60s, and 70s and water skiing. So that kind of sets the stage here. So you also notice that looks pretty clean out there. Of course, it's a black and white photo. Next slide. So 1969, that was Orange County's Mulholland event. It was the premier hydrologic event that changed Orange County forever. So while the agricultural interests were trying to drain their areas to continue growing avocados, oranges, etc., they kept deepening the channels, and then they started improving the channels. And this is prior to the EPA. They started putting in these concrete channels that got closer and closer to the bay. And then in 1969, we had this gigantic storm, and it blew out that remaining amount of material between the channels and the bay, and that created San Diego Creek connection. So just a momentous event in 1969, and coincidentally, 1970, the city of Irvine was formed. And the Irvine Company made $1 trillion on developing the city. Next slide. So one of the consequences of connecting San Diego Creek to the bay was not only did you have tremendous loading of sediment coming down that actually was turning Upper Bay into a mudflat, you also had all this trash being poured into the bay. And if this is Jack Skinner, you may know him. So this is 1993. Next slide. Here we have these just courageous volunteers trying to make headway against this amazing amount of trash that was coming in. Next slide. The city built this boom system at North Star Beach and collecting trash every year. Sometimes we get as much as 500 cubic yards of trash. But that's only a fraction of what enters the bay. Next slide. The real concern is that much of it ends up in the sensitive marine life areas that surround the bay. And you have these people doing a great job removing trash and trampling the sensitive marine habitat. So this was not the best way to go, obviously. And it was also frustrating because these people would go out, and we get lots of volunteers every year. They'd clean up an area, and 1 week later, it'd be full of trash. So, next slide. The city has a comprehensive program for capturing trash, and sweeping streets, and cleaning catch basins. And we've installed some novel things in the harbor that collect trash, like a pool skimmer. And we have a mobile device now that kind of cruises around capturing trash. So we're trying to address this because it's the last obvious pollutant problem in Newport Bay. Newport Bay, if you've been out there, it's beautiful. You can see down 20 feet. There's all kinds of wildlife there. You know, we have dolphins sometimes coming to the bay. So it's just a lovely place, but then you have this floating trash that's just messing up the environment in the upper bay. So, next slide. Before I talk about the Trash Interceptor, the Santa Ana Delhi Channel, which is the second biggest creek entering the bay, we installed with the city of Santa Ana and some other partners a 100% full capture system that captures down to 5 millimeter particles, cigarette butts, etc. And next slide. And this is prior to the actual finishing the construction, but the water would be diverted from the Delhi Channel into this compartment here. There's a Kawanda screen here to take out the small particles. And then we had this bank of baskets that would capture the trash. And then whatever escaped those baskets would be captured in that big screen area there. Then the water would be returned to Santa Ana River. This is system's been operating. We turned it over to the county, Orange County, and we're already starting to see the benefits. So we proposed the same kind of 100% capture system for the San Diego Creek. Well, we couldn't get any takers. Irvine and Tustin, they said, no, we're already doing all we need to do. We have these catch basin inserts, and that's all we need to do per the law. So the city of Newport Beach said, okay, we'll go it alone. Next slide. So our first proposal was to put it in Upper Bay. From an engineering point of view, it makes a ton of sense because the way this would work is that whatever trash was captured, there would be a dumpster loaded at the back of this contraption, and then when it was full, a boat would just come up the upper bay, tow it over to the dunes, unload it, and return to the dumpster. So from an engineering point of view, is just a beautiful way to go, and CDFW just shot it down flat, saying no way, it's a preserve, and no amount of engineering logic would turn them from that. So we turned to San Diego Creek. And that's where things got interesting. It's a small creek. It's not very wide, a couple hundred feet. It has steep banks. There's no power out there, no water. It's engineering challenge. And in fact, no one else has ever tried to do something like this. How do you get trash from the water up to the land site? Because we couldn't get it out underneath the bridge, right? Because you couldn't bring a boat up here, but also there's this breakwater here, right, that wouldn't allow boat traffic. So, next slide. So this was the prototype that was suggested to us. It's the Mr. Trash Wheel in Baltimore. And you can see on the back side here this floating barge with a dumpster on top of it. So this conveyor inside there that dumps the trash in there, and then they have a tug that comes in there and just takes the trash out and then brings it back. Slick. It's a low-tech kind of solution. We couldn't do that for our project. Next slide. So we had to find a way to take the trash that was into the dumpsters, get it landside. So it's a little hard to see in this picture because I didn't want to give away the whole show here. So let's go to the next slide. So the trick was, how do we get a dumpster full of trash that's on the Trash Interceptor land side? And so let's use a conveyor belt, an underwater rail system, all this kind of, we looked at all these different options, and we knew none of these would fly, practically speaking or environmentally. So the final plan was to put the dumpsters on a fixed railway. And so the trash would come up the conveyor, dump it into the dumpster, then we'd winch the dumpster's land side, and then we'd have this truck just come in around, front-loading garbage truck, see in our regular truck, pick up the dumpsters, unload them, winch the dumpsters back in, and away you go. Now, we only have 2 dumpsters that we can fill at one time, so it's not particularly efficient, but we knew that from an engineering point of view, we could actually make it work. Next slide. So I haven't shown this to City Council here because I know that the finished product will not look as good as this rendering. But you can see all the main elements here. We have 2 booms, one long boom that comes to the south bank. There's one that attaches to the north bank. And you can see the fixed rail system there. You can see the truck that comes in through the access road. You can see the canopy has some solar panels on top. There's also some solar panels on this power pavilion here, which has all the controls. And the reason we have these solar panels is the creek water flow is not sufficient to actually turn the paddle wheel, which turns the conveyor. So we have these solar panels that charge batteries, and these batteries operate these little pumps, and the pumps put water into these little cups on the water wheel and make it turn. So this sounds like a bit of a mousetrap contraption, if you remember that game. So let's look at the next slide, and I'll kind of run you through the mechanism here. So the trash runs into the boom. The creek water drives the trash toward number 2, where we have these rakes that take the trash and they load it onto this conveyor belt, number 3. And then the water wheel is turning either with solar power or stream power, and the trash is conveyed to the top, and then there's dumpsters on the other side. Next slide. So you can see the same kind of mechanism. You can see the rakes are the orange there, the conveyor belt the pink, and the dumpster, this is the Baltimore one, is shown in the green. Okay, next slide. So this is one of the trash water wheels installed in Baltimore. It's halfway installed, and it's a beautiful picture here where you can see the water wheel, you can see the conveyor, you can see the framing that the canopy is going to be covering. Solar panels are on top of the canopy. They got this whole gangway here. And so this mechanism, we've done all the site work. The actual mechanism is being fabricated now, and we'll come to the site in July, and then we'll have it assembled in August. So that might be the time then to do a little site visit. Next slide. So, so the key points here is that you have the dumpsters on a fixed platform. The trash interceptor is going up and down with the tides, and you could have a 7-foot, variation. But it's still, whatever trash goes up there will dump into the dumpsters, will help deflectors, et cetera, to help direct it into the dumpsters. And we have these very large 3 piles that stabilize the trash interceptors that can go up and down vertically without getting blown away in a big storm. The booms are designed to capture trash in up to a 25-year storm. After that, they'll break away, and so that you don't destroy the trash wheel, because it will start to submerge at some point if it has too much of a load. Next slide. So again, this is just showing that the full trash, once you have the full dumpsters here, we have this winch that pulls them into position, and then your truck can come in and unload them. Also note here that this whole area drains to a bioinfiltration unit to filter out stuff that we're going to get onto the working area. All right, next slide. So here's some 3D renderings of the final product. The gangway's not going to be there. The piles are shown in the wrong location, but you can see the two boom systems here. You can see that we have, not only do we have the canopy over the Trash Interceptor, we have these canopies over the railway where the sled will be. So one of the concerns, of course, is what about seagulls? What about, nuisance vectors, like rodents or whatever else? So we're putting together an operation and maintenance manual, and we've had a lot of great feedback from the Irvine Company because they own the apartments across the way. And they also happen to own the creek, this reach of the creek. So as part of the agreement with them, we've taken over the creek. And so and that has ramifications because we've had permit requirements from CDFW to take out all the invasive vegetation. And we have to do that in perpetuity. So they drove a hard bargain, but that's CDFW. So I think that's kind of the main parts of this project. Next slide. Okay, just another perspective here. You can see the apartments across the way. Now they were saying, what about the noise, this thing, the clanky conveyor belt and the trash dumping into the dumpsters? If you've been out there, you've got Jamboree Road on 800 feet away, and you have the 73 overpass another 1,000 feet away, and you can't hear yourself talking, And so we're going to have noise meters out there, and we're going to show them that it's not a problem. What about the light pollution? So we're going to have night vision cameras to monitor the site because we're only a mile from UCI, and we have boarding nets, and we're concerned about that. Certain people coming out here for pranks, and so we will not have a light pollution problem because they do have Fletcher Jones, the stadium lights there, and we don't want to interfere with that. So, and we're going to have we're going to go out there and weekly do the sweeping. We'll have vector control out there. We'll have to see how the seagulls operate. I mean, they're not going to be hanging around the dumpsters. It's soggy mess of stuff there. They're not going to fight food sources, I don't think. So I don't anticipate that as a problem. But the first year, we're going to be observing how this thing operates. So we hear a big storm's coming. We're going to take the dumpsters off site. We're going to shut the place down. We're going to let the storm peak come. We're going to come out there, look if the creek's low enough, and then we'll start operating. And we'll see what kind of storms we can handle. Now, it doesn't take much of a storm to flood this site. A 5-year storm, you'll flood that paved area. But even if we're not operating, the booms will be collecting the trash. So when we do come in, then we'll just start hauling it off. And we'll haul it off as fast as we can, and we'll work with the hauler on how we'll actually work that out. And then we'll estimate what the dumpsters have. So we anticipate that 20% bottles and that kind of trash, and 80% debris, because you're capturing a lot of stuff from that reach between here and the 405. There's all that area. It's pretty heavily reeded, and flood control doesn't do any real maintenance out there. So we're going to characterize that, and then the second year we're going to use whatever methods, either sorting or cameras and stuff, to try to characterize what that trash is. Look for addresses, AM, PM marking, that kind of stuff. Just to let people know that none of this trash is Newport Beach's. We really want to get a handle on it. Building these kind of projects is not the best way to go. The best way is to have garbage cans and a social media kind of program to induce people to put garbage in the cans and not do illegal dumping, that kind of thing here. And also just kind of prove to people that upstream that they're just not doing a good enough job. Next slide. So this is a picture from a couple weeks ago. You can see the girders here. That's where the rails have actually been installed now. On the right side is where the catwalk's going to be. The piles have been cut down to the right shape now. There's also a gangway that's been installed. It's now in the vertical position. So we have to wait now for the pontoons to be fabricated and then the whole trash wheel to be delivered. In the meantime, we're working, so this is actually kind of a low-tech kind of system. It's just this, contraption that's with this wheel and a conveyor, gears. It's stuff that probably could have been built, 200 years ago. But the monitoring and the ability to remotely control this, this contraption is space age. So we have these young engineers, they do something called system architecture. So they have cameras and monitoring devices that are linked up locally and remotely through the Ethernet. I didn't know what the Ethernet was until recently. And they can do all kinds of signals and alarms and this and that. And so that truly is space age. So we have just the whole gamut of expertise that's involved with this project. On one end you have these system architects. On the other side you have people that are actually tuning up this trash interceptor, lubricating the gears, whatever. So it's kind of been a fascinating project. It's gotten a lot of press already, even though it hasn't been installed. But we expect after August, when it's actually in the water and we start commissioning it, we're going to get all the newspapers will be there, all the television stations. I bet the Wall Street Journal will come out and do some kind of investment, analysis on it. And that's really the point of this whole project. We're going to capture a little bit of trash, but the point is to really get a PR and get people to start talking about trash, because it's the last remaining big pollutant in Newport Bay, and we really want to get a handle on it. Next slide. So I think I already talked about this. First year of operation, we're just going to see how it works. Second year, we'll start quantifying. And this is kind of nice because it shows the rail system profile, and it's hard to see here, but the trash interceptor can go up and down 7 or 10 feet, depending on tides. Next slide. So I mentioned CDFW is requiring us to revegetate the area. If you go out there now, it's not a pleasant place to hike. It's just all invasives, and there's nothing really to see, even though lots of waterfowl out there. So one of our challenges is that we know we're going to get a lot of people that want to visit, and we don't really have a way to accommodate them. There's no parking out there. Patagonia has said that they'll build a platform on the south bank so that people on the bike trail that can stop and then have a viewpoint. So that's something we'll pursue. A lot of people, including Fletcher Jones, they want to get their logo on the canopy, so we're going to have sponsors. Sierra Club, you get first dibs. And really, Sierra Club, they're one of the first supporters here, along with Coast Keepers, and so really, thank you for that, because we were hanging by a thread for the first few years, and even until recently, the council was kind of shaking their head and saying, "Bob, you need to get more money," and so at the last minute, they stepped up and came up with the shortfall, about $1.5 million. Next slide. Okay, so I think we've covered all this. It's going to capture all the trash during the dry season, and after the storm peaks, we'll be able to capture that trash. It's going to get a lot of press, and we're going to do some scientific studies on quantifying this trash, and I think it's kind of a prototype model for what other agencies might need to think about when they're trying to control trash. A lot of it's illegal dumping into the channels. That might be the last slide. What else we got? Okay, yeah, we'll be operating in December 2025, and that's it. So the permitting agencies, Corps of Engineers, CDFW, Regional Board, who am I forgetting here? Army Corps of Engineers, Coastal Commission, OC Public Works, great to work with, good organization. Irvine Company, they've actually been pretty good, even though they told us to build it somewhere else. So, about 7 years to get the permits and construction documents, and about 6 months to build it. That's about right, 10 to 1. So with that, I'll be open to any questions. Yes, miss.
What's your
The original grant from Ocean Protection Council was about $2 million. That went for some design. And then we got a grant from OCTA, Measure M, for $500,000. And then when that wasn't quite enough, the city council said, we'll come up with the remaining $1.6 million. But then Diane Dixon and Dave Min came back from Sacramento with $1.6 million. And so the city really hasn't had to spend a lot of any of its general fund. It's really been staff time. And we had a groundbreaking about 2 months ago. And of course, all the people that were not involved with the project showed up for the photo, so that worked out well. And we expect the same for the actual christening of the Trash Interceptor. And maybe they're going to have some kind of naming contest. I don't know. Someone has suggested because, well, if we're from UCI, we have the anteaters, so they said maybe the trash eaters would be a good. I don't know if that would fly. Any other questions? Yes.
Bob, California state law requires that the cities upstream do something to combine, to capture their trash.
Yes.
Or to eliminate it. And, what steps could we take to encourage them to enforce the law? Because certainly the less trash that goes into the creek,
A great question.
less work the trash.
Great question. So, did you hear that? So the question is, what can we do to stimulate the interest of the upstream cities to take further steps to curtail trash entering the creeks? And so the trash amendments, the TMDL, required the cities to do something. And what they've been doing is putting in these inserts into the catch basin that are able to segregate out the trash, and they work pretty well. And so they put all their eggs into that basket. And so their feeling is, well, we've done it, we're done. And show us that we're not doing enough work here. So this is going to show them how effective they are. And I think that once we have the data, then it would be great if Sierra Club went to a city council meeting and say, look, City of Irvine, City of Tustin, Lake Forest, Orange, smaller areas, this is not money well spent. Let's have a social media program. Let's train people. Let's have flood control. Great organization for conveying water, but they need to do more maintenance, and it's a new paradigm for them because it's also habitat. Okay, so they need to figure that out. San Diego Creek has endangered species there, the least Bell's vireo, and of course you guys went to the ponds over at IRWD, and so this whole area is going to be an eco-stop, ecotourism spot, because you have Bolsa Chica, we have Newport Bay, we have IRW lakes. It's going to be something where a lot of innovative things are happening to protect water quality. We've had calls from the Bay Area and from LA County about how they can get their own trash interceptor. So I think there's this whole green mentality that kind of comes along with the trash interceptor. So we're pretty excited about this, and the press is going to be there, and so the Sierra Club wants to show up. You'll have plenty of camera time, I think. Any other questions?
We'll keep that in mind.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering, you said just above the booms, ducks are there feeding. Would they have any interplay with the booms collecting the trash? Do they come in there to feed on plastic and stuff?
Yeah, you always see those pictures, right, of the plastic entwined or in being ingested by these birds. But otherwise, these birds are pretty smart. So they see a boom, they go, "Oh, I'll swim under that," And so there's not going to be any hazard to wildlife. Now, our previous designs where we had submerged rails and all that other stuff, that was going to be just a nightmare for an environmental point of view. So this is pretty clean. And we've had people, what about the little local impact of the trash collecting on the booms? There will be a local impact. We're going to have to address that. But just think about Upper Bay, how that's going to be transformed. And so when groups go out there to actually clean up, it'll stay clean. and you'll even have more people interested in protecting the Upper Bay. Yeah, it's really a resource, and when you ride around there, you just see all this trash there, you just kind of shake your head like, where am I? This is not Newport Beach. Yes?
What do you anticipate will be the annual expense for, start over again? Okay. What do you anticipate will be the annual expense for maintaining the Trash Interceptor?
I mean, it's a good question, because you have the different elements. You have, the actual tuning up of the trash wheel, keeping the site clean, the remote monitoring, you have the landscaping that you're going to have to maintain. So I'm going to say less than $100,000 the first year, and then as it gets mature, I think the price will come down maybe to $50,000. So it's that kind of stuff. People will just definitely contribute to that, and then we'll also talk to our upstream partners about how they can help out. But otherwise, not a cost-effective project. I think design and construction, $5 million. Yes.
Bob, I have another question also. For going forward, do you think that possibly the city might be eligible for some of the funding from the IRA or the Bilateral Infrastructure and Jobs Act?
Based on this project? What do you think? I don't know.
I think there may be possible.
Okay, you'll have to fill me in on that. Okay, thank you. Was there one more question here? Okay. Well, again, thank you, Sierra Club. And I invited Suvan to come, but she had some other engagement here. But I really appreciated her support early on. We did not have a lot of people in our court.
No,
Yes.
and I'll admit that, Bob tried to get me to go speak to the County Board of Supervisors. I declined initially because they wanted to put it in the upper Newport Bay,
Oh,
in the marine protected area, and could not support him there.
I forgot about
But I
that.
always thought it was a great idea.
Last question here. Once the trash is collected, where exactly will it go?
It'll just go to a regular landfill. I didn't know the answer to that, but I was speaking at the Marriott at the Anaheim, Marriott in Anaheim. They had a planners conference there, and so someone from LA County was there, and they have a different kind of trash interceptor there at Iona Creek, and they just go to a regular landfill. Now, they do take some of that and they sort it out and actually characterize what's in that. So we'll be in contact with them because we need to do something similar. The Coastal Commission actually told me I need to come back and explain to them how we're characterizing the trash. So they're again, thank you again. Appreciate the invite.
All right, thank you, Bob. We're looking forward to seeing what it actually looks like come August when you have it in the water and operational. Thanks for a wonderful presentation tonight. I just have a few announcements to make. April is going to be Earth Day. Earth Day will be Saturday the 20th. Most places, most cities will celebrate then. So Sierra Sage will be at a couple of events in April. There is one event on April the 18th. That's a Thursday at Laguna Woods Village Clubhouse. You can get into the clubhouse by just letting the guard at the gate know that you want to go to the Earth Day event. There's also an Earth Day event on the 20th here at Oso Creek Trail, just right behind this building here. And that will be from 8 to noon. If you're interested, come out for that. There'll be all sorts of events that Mission Viejo puts on. There'll be planting trees, there'll be some demonstrations, there'll be activities for families to participate in. So if you have a chance, come out. And if you have some extra time, if you have an hour or two to stop by our booth and help us greet the public and tell them about Sierra Club, we appreciate that as well. There's also an Earth Day event that is in the Newport Bay that we were just talking about. That is going to be also on April the 20th from 10 to 4. So you can stop by and see the Sierra Club booth there. And just to let you know, our next meeting will be May the 21st. That is the third Tuesday of the month. Because of the Memorial Day holiday, we've moved it, the date up 1 week. And if you've ever wondered about electric cars and what actual owners think about their ownership and their experiences in driving them, and their maintenance and taking them on trips or whatever, then you're in store for a good presentation on the 21st. One of our members, Todd Fitch, is going to do a presentation. Everything you need to know about owning and loving your electric vehicle. So mark your calendars for May the 21st. Are there any?
Vicki,
Yep.
Also, and I hope we can, okay, here we go, Todd.
We have a comment or question from the audience.
Okay, I'd like to encourage all of you who are Sierra Club members to be sure to vote in the election for the National Board of Directors. But you should have received a ballot either by email or a paper ballot. And it's really important that you take the time, read about them on sierraclub.org. There's a ballot statement from each of the candidates, as well as a set of forum questions that each of them have answered. Look at it, evaluate it, please vote. It's really, really essential that we express our support and our interest in the National Board of Directors. Sierra Club's going through a lot of changes at the moment, and we are a grassroots organization. We need to remain a grassroots organization. We need to be able to have our voices heard. So please cast your ballots.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all for coming to the meeting, and we hope to see you at a future presentation. Have a good night.
And please help yourselves.